Welcome to this special edition of the Spurscast, or perhaps probably we should call it the Videocast, the first ever in Project Spurs history. Post-game video recap of the Spurs losing. That's right, losing Game 5 to the LA Clippers, 114 to 105. Spurs on the bad end of that stick right there. Well, the series is now tied, going back to LA and Paul. Heading into this game, the momentum seemingly seemed to be in San Antonio's favor. It did not come out this way. You can look at the numbers, you can look at the energy, you can look at bench production. Right down the list, what's the one thing that really stood out for you?
I think just like you mentioned, energy. The Clippers, obviously, even after getting drubbed by almost 37 the other day, they came out with a lot of energy. You could just tell they were focused on defense. It looked very much like Game 1. They were just all over the place. They were getting in passing lanes. They were constantly just attacking the Spurs guys. And they shot a really good percentage, and it was really just fed off that energy. When you have a lot of energy in your step, your jumpers, have a better chance of going in. And then San Antonio mentioned on their end, they weren't as focused, and a lot of mistakes, little mental mistakes that really cost them the game there.
Yeah, Manu Ginobili said in post-game with Paul Garcia, telling him, hey, they made some disappointed mistakes. That wasn't characteristic of them. And also, Paul and I was in the locker room for the Clippers. They said this was a must-win for them, and they openly admitted it had to go back. J.J. Redick said going back 3-1 to L.A. would have been a death sentence for them.
Yeah, and I mean, that's what we talked about. Had they gone, like you said, had they gone back down 3-1, the series would have been over. Now, they have their home court back. It's 2-2. It's locked up, and basically both teams have won on each other's floor. So it's going to be LA has now the next 2 out of 3 if it goes to Game 7 at home. So they have their edge back.
Yeah, key players for San Antonio heading into tonight's game would have been a player like Danny Green, but Danny Green had a horrible performance in Game 5. And in the opposite end, Austin Rivers stood up. He basically called attention right there and said, I'm here, I'm going to play, and he delivered.
He was really the big difference here. Austin Rivers, Manu talked about how that was an offensive punch they weren't prepared for, and that's what he did. He gave him 17 points off the bench. With him, when he's playing well, it gives a guy like Chris Paul, who usually plays about 42 minutes, to give him a few extra minutes of rest. Him and Blake Griffin, obviously they were crazy good today, but Austin giving them 17 points and helped take the scoring burden off of their shoulders. And then Doc complimented his son and saying that it was actually his defense that he liked. He liked that he could play in multiple positions. He did very well, especially going at Patty Mills, even though Patty Mills did pretty good for San Antonio. So Austin was a big difference in that.
Yeah, Tim Duncan led the way for San Antonio with a double-double. I believe 22 points and 14 rebounds. Kawhi Leonard was being Kawhi Leonard. He almost single-handedly brought them back in the waning moments, but it was too little too late. Back-to-back three-pointers just wasn't enough going. But, you look at the absence of Danny Green, the absence of Thiago Splitter. They go 6 for 25 from the three-point line, and they miss 10 critical free throws at the end of the game.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of something that's been happening in the series. I'm going to be writing this for tomorrow. San Antonio is not shooting the ball in the series. They're shooting 32% from three, whether it's in LA or here at town, like we saw. They're not shooting the ball well. Danny Green's a big part of that. He's getting some open looks. He's not getting as many as he normally gets. He's kind of rushing them a little bit. He doesn't get as comfortable ones. But even a guy like Marco Bellinelli's struggling. Manu's struggling a little bit. Boris Diaw, him and Tony Parker have both not made a three at all in this series. They're shooting 0%, and that's huge. The Spurs rely on the three-ball, and then as we mentioned, the free throws. They left 10 points at the line, and guess what? They lost by just a little under 10.
Yeah, you look at the stat sheet. The Spurs seemingly look like they've made it one of this. Only 8 turnovers for the game, which is very low for them. Leading to 8 points for the Clippers. On the opposite end, the Clippers have 10 turnovers, leading to 13 points. So, number-wise, it seemingly looked like the Spurs had control of the game, but it's just the little things. Missed free throws. Where was Danny Green? Where was Thiago Splitter? The Clippers were making shots. The Spurs weren't, basically, what it comes down to.
Yeah, the Spurs definitely, whether it was contested or uncontested, just couldn't call the ball. And that's been something, that happened. We talked about that. They just could not get the ball to go into the basket. And the Clippers, whether it was contested, it was a shot. Who was it? Chris Paul, I think. Chris Paul had a double pump. 3 guys on him, he still got that shot to go on. It was their night, but also, San Antonio had those mistakes.
Yeah, Chris Paul had 34 points to lead LA victory. And they just had no answer for him. And Blake Griffin as well, 20 points and 19 rebounds. He was a force to be reckoned with.
Something Chris did very well was he ran the offense real quick. He asked for a lot of picks real quick. So that forced guys like Duncan, for Splitter, for Diaw to get mismatched on him. And of course, if Chris Paul has a mismatch and he has a good jumper going, it's over. Kawhi Leonard, with Danny Green missing shots, he couldn't play that many minutes. Pop had to pull him early in the third quarter. And so obviously the Spurs' defense got attacked that way.
Yeah, once again, the Spurs lose game 4 here in San Antonio, 105 to 114. Going back to LA, there will be a game 6 in San Antonio. But depending whether the Spurs be up or they be down, we'll definitely see that. But before I put a close on this video here, Paul, your keys to a game 5 victory.
I mean, really just hope the ball goes in the hole. They have definitely got to have that mental preparedness, especially the way that the crowd's going to be. They're back in LA. They know this series now. Anybody's ball game. Anyone can take this series. I think they kept their turnovers relatively low, but then like we said, defensive mistakes, just not getting back on assignments quickly. They were lost a few times in communication. I think they'll correct those things, but really just there's not much you can do outside of making the shots. Right. They have to go in.
As for me, I'm looking squarely at guys like Danny Green and Thiago Splitter. They really need to step up for the Spurs if they want to have a chance to advance into the second round. And only that, too, just simply learning that this team has played on the road and they've won on the road. Tim Duncan afterwards in postgame said that this team can and will win on the road. So, and they're a veteran team. They can do it.
That's something Kawhi Leonard, Tony Parker, Mono all said. I mean, this obviously getting the Game 2 win shows that you can't go into LA. Even when they were hurt, I mean, you saw Tony was out that second half. Monty was in foul trouble, and they still were able to win that game out. So they know they can win on the road. They know it's going to be a crazy environment. They got to execute.
All right, once again, Spurs do lose the game. The series is tied 2-2, going back to LA for Game 5. There will be a Game 6 in San Antonio. But you stay here, right here at Project Spurs. We'll be covering this series and hopefully more in the future if the Spurs get the victory in this first round. But for Paul Garcia, I'm Jeff Garcia. Thanks again for watching this episode of the Spurs Videocast, the first one ever. So we'll see you soon, Project Spurs listeners.